Even though tensions are high and political discourse is at a boiling point right now, it's worth your time to take these words into consideration.
There's someone whose life was tragically taken by violence and as a consequence has left a wife and some children behind. It's a tragic thing that had happened to him. What is also tragic is they're trying to make him a martyr of the faith. Now, he did violently die, but he did not die for the faith.
This is Reverend Dr. F. Bruce Williams of the Bates Memorial Baptist Church, and he's shedding a whole new light on how the right wing is characterizing this brutal act of violence.
And nobody should die like that, especially in front of their children and their wives. Nobody should die like that in front of anybody. But let's be clear. He wasn't a martyr for the faith. What I see is what he said he was. And that was, he was a white Christian nationalist. And I put it in quotation marks because I don't know how you could be a white nationalist and a Christian at the same time, just like I don't know how you could be a Klansman and a Christian at the same time. Because a white nationalist is someone who has a vision of America that it is to be a white ethno state, which does not include you or other marginalized people.
I thought those were really measured responses by the Reverend. Because yeah, nobody should die in that manner, and it's awful to see that violent death. However, let's be clear, he was not a martyr of the faith, and also, let's identify him the way he identified, which was, a Christian white nationalist. And I love how you put Christian in quotes, because how can you be a white nationalist but proclaim to be Christian? How can you be a member of the Klan but proclaim to be Christian? Okay? His legacy and character should not, talking about Charlie Kirk here, should not be whitewashed and sanitized just because he died in such a violent and tragic way. We are going to speak about him the way that he portrayed himself and the way that he saw fit. And that's going to upset some people, but these are the facts.
I'm overwhelmed by folk who call themselves Christian simply because they invoke the name Jesus and quote scripture from the Old Testament, but never love like Jesus, never try to live like Jesus, never apply the Sermon on the Mount. Charlie Kirk did not deserve to be assassinated. Seeing the flags of the United States of America at half-staff, calling this nation to honor and venerate a man who was an unapologetic racist and spent all of his life sowing seeds of division and hate into this land. I am sorry, but there's nowhere in Bible where we are taught to honor evil. And how you die does not redeem how you lived.
Reverend Wesley was dropping bars left and right during that sermon. The part that really stood out to me was when he said, he did not deserve to be assassinated. However, the way you die does not redeem the way you live. That is going to stick with me for a very long time. Because yes, it can be a tragic death. It can be awful to see that. But the way you lived, we're not going to gloss over how much hate and division you put out into the world. How much animosity you had towards marginalized groups, including black people. And the other part that I really enjoyed was when he said, look, nowhere in the Bible are we taught to honor evil. And Charlie Kirk stood for evil if you've read or if you watch any of his videos and speeches. And then here's the other thing. There are so many double standards and there's so much hypocrisy when it comes to conservative Christians who claim to be Christ-like when their actions and output into the world say the exact opposite. And the fact that people are expecting individuals to have compassion for Charlie Kirk's death when he didn't even have respect for black people as human beings, It says a lot.
Murder is always wrong. Murder is always against the path of Jesus, who preached radical non-violence. And so people celebrating Charlie Kirk's death is wrong. That is not the response of Christians. That said, glorifying Charlie Kirk is also not the path of Christians. He went out and worked for oppression of LGBTQ plus folks. He worked for the oppression of people of color and immigrants. He worked to strip away rights in regards to reproductive health. His legacy is one of evil. Guns are the problem. The solution is gun control.
The most effective solution to reducing gun violence is common sense gun control measures to, at the very least, decrease the odds of something like this and even more mass shootings from occurring. It's not rocket science. This is the only nation where things like this happen, okay? There was another shooting during the same day that Charlie Kirk was killed, right? At a school. This is all preventable.
While we condemn his murder and the gun violence that led to it, we must also reject MAGA's efforts to portray him as something he was not. He preached anti-Semitism, Islamophobia, racism, misogyny, and homophobia. Jesus said that the greatest commandment was to love. His death is tragic, and I'm thankful that the shooter has been apprehended. But the media should stop portraying him as a man of peace just following Jesus when he was anything but. This week's violence was horrific and has been rightfully condemned. But that violence should not be used today to normalize, even celebrate, the hatred that white Christian nationalism embodies.
The way certain media outlets covered his death was very disturbing and gross from the standpoint of making him out to be this martyr, right? Making him out to be this like social justice activist who had bold ideas and he wanted to fight for change. That was the sentiment, when that couldn't be further from the truth. I mean, people compared him, you got pundits out there comparing him to Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. That's such a slap in the face to King's legacy and everything that he stood for. Make no mistake about it, people. Charlie Kirk stood for evil based on his words. And then you have people, you have sports organizations that are holding a moment of silence for somebody that had so much bigotry in his heart, in his mind. What are we doing? What are we doing, people? And again, the quote that stays with me is from Reverend Wesley's sermon. The way you die does not redeem the way you lived. Just because you got taken out of this world and off a mantle does not mean now we get to glorify your life and make you out to be somebody who you never were. Again, he stood for hate based on his words. Rail HQ, I'm Chris Williamson. We'll see you next time.